Assalamu alaikum students, I hope you all are well, safe and healthy at home. I'm Farzana Khan, your course instructor. Welcome to all of you in this class of semantics. I am here with other topic, conceptual theories. So dear students, previously we discussed about the semantic theories which are related to referential theories. And in this class, I am here with conceptual theories and we'll talk about the conceptual theories. Let's start from the topic. Before moving towards the theories, let me tell you about the concept first. You were already taught about the sense and references. That how do we get meaning? According to some, we do get meaning because we do refer. And according to some, we do basically an image, as a sense, a concept occur in our mind due to which we do consider the object, we do understand the meaning of the particular word. So sense is basically when the term, the word, a word is used and we do listen the word, at that time definitely the concept, which is basically the sense which occurs, the concept occurs in our mind, and due to that concept, that sense, this relationship is called the sense. Due to this sense, we do understand the particular object, which is basically the referent. I already told you that the word, the term is basically the linguistic expression which is used to refer the particular object. An object is called the referent. I hope all the terms are pretty clear into your mind. So when we do listen certain words, at that time the image occurs in the mind. The mental image is basically the sense, the concept, and on the basis of this sense we do understand the object which is the referent. So this is basically the relationship, and in other sense we can say this is basically semiotic triangle. In semantics we do call it semiotic triangle. So in this class our topic is basically to talk about the conceptual theories which are given by different philosophers, different authors, linguists, about the understanding of the meaning of the words. So basically there are four theories of concepts which are conceptual theories: the image theory, the causal theory. Basically I already told you about the causal theories. According to John Iside, he has basically added the causal theory in the referential categorization. But according to some other writers, basically causal theory comes under the category of conceptual theories or concepts theories. After that, there is a classical theory, which is basically the theory, definitional theory, which we have discussed in the previous class, and then there is a prototype theory. So just to understand this concept too, I will also explain the causal and the classical theory just to show you the relationship between all these theories, and just so that you become able to understand clearly about the conceptual theories. So first of all, I'll tell you about the image theory. So image theory is basically a theory, as the name indicates, it aims at explaining the meaning of a word in terms of the images that the speakers stores in their brain as a mental image. So these mental images are affected by people's experiences and cultures. So according to this theory, basically when we do interact in the world, we do keep certain images in our mind about the things which do exist in the world. And when we do listen that particular word, at that time the image occurs in our mind, and then we become able to understand about that particular linguistic expression, and we become able to understand the object. For instance, they have explained the point that if someone is uttering a dog is basically a linguistic expression, a term, a word, a symbol, right? So when we do listen this particular term or linguistic expression, at that time the image occurs in our mind, which we have already kept in our mind after interaction and after observing, due to the experience, due to living in a particular culture. So the image which already we have in the mind, so that particular image occurs in our mind. So on the basis of that particular image, we do understand about the particular object, which is basically the referent, which has been referred by the particular linguistic expression. So the image theory states that we have the images about the things in our mind, and we do use those images to identify the certain things on the basis of the words, and we do understand the meanings of the words on the basis of those images. So this is basically the image theory. But again, there are some drawbacks in this theory. There are certain problems in this theory. One may have more than one images for a single expression. This is the first major drawback, that one man has more than one images about a single expression, that how the one man can identify the one particular thing which has been referred by the speaker. Similarly, two expressions may have the same mental images in one mind. That sometimes the two expressions may have the same mental image in one mind. There is no specific particular image of one thing which we need to keep in our mind, which we need to store in our mind, just to understand that particular object when that has been referred by the particular speaker. So the mental images are not fixed, since they are vary on the basis of the multiple experiences. They do vary culture to culture. So then we cannot say that the image theory is giving us the complete idea and making the complete concept clear about the understanding of the meaning of the words. So this is the image theory and the drawbacks, flaws of the image theory. Image theory basically means when we do listen the linguistic expression, the image of the particular thing, a real image occurs in the mind, and the major flaw is that there are multiple images and one can store more than one images in the mind. Similarly, more than one images can represent a one thing too. So how can we think about it if the certain images are occurring in our mind, and how we will be able to identify the one particular thing? So this is basically the one of the drawback of the image theory. Now let me tell you, in response to the image theory, the other theory came, which is basically the classical definitional theory. I have already explained about the classical theory in the previous lecture, but maintaining the connectivity between the conceptual theories, I'll also explain it again in this class too. So classical and definitional theory states that there is a necessary, a sufficient condition for every word. Every concept is associated with a definition. Everything that satisfies the definition falls under the concept, belongs to its corresponding conceptual category, and everything that fails to satisfy the definition is excluded from that particular category. According to this theory, there is a proper definition, there is a proper necessary criteria about all the words and related to their particular referent, right? And all the reference objects which are fulfilling the particular criteria, they will fall under that particular category, means they will be called and they will relate to that particular word. On the basis of this, we will understand the meaning. And if some of the objects are not fulfilling that particular criteria, so they will be excluded from the word because they are not fulfilling the definition, the criteria. So definitions typically take the form of a set of features. For example, our criteria, like features and criteria are already defined of the linguistic expressions related to the particular object, which are individually necessary for membership of the category and are jointly sufficient. Here I have given the example, the concept of the boy, which is defined as young plus male plus human. So any individual who is fulfilling this particular criteria, who is young, male and plus human, that will fall under the category of boy. So these features are individually necessary in that every member of the category boy must be male, young and human. So these features are jointly sufficient in that everything which possess all three features will qualify as boy. So let me explain this theory with another example. For instance, the linguistic expression is a dog. When you are listening this expression, whenever you will read or listen this particular object, this particular linguistic term, at that time, the proper definition, which is basically the necessary and sufficient definition and criteria for understanding this particular object. So this necessary and sufficient criteria will come into your mind, which is basically the animal. Dog is basically an plus 4 legs minus kill. So this is the complete sufficient definition of the dog. So this definition will come into your mind, and on the basis of this, you will be able to understand the particular object, which is dog, instead of the image, which according to the previous theory, the image will occur into your mind. But according to this theory, the sufficient definition, the criteria will occur into your mind, and on the basis of which you will identify the different object, which is basically the dog. But this theory also has certain drawbacks. Basically, this approach to concepts has an intuitive appeal, but the major drawbacks are, for the majority of concepts, it is extremely difficult to come up with satisfactory definition, because according to this criticism of this theory, we don't have the sufficient and necessary definition for each and every category. Similarly, they do say that this approach implies that categories have sharp boundaries, whereas natural categories typically have fuzzy boundaries. So what to do with fuzzy boundaries if they are not falling under that particular category? So with this approach, everything that satisfies a definition has equal status in a category. This doesn't explain why. Typically, some members of a category are felt to be more central and others more peripheral. Let me explain this basically the major drawbacks of this definitional theory or classical theory. For example, the bird. Bird is basically a linguistic expression. It is a word. And the sufficient necessary definition of this word is feathers plus animals plus fly. So everything which has the feathers, which is the animal, and which can fly will fall under the category of the bird. So let's talk about the word chicken. If we talk about the chicken, so chicken has feathers. Alright, chicken is also animal, but chicken cannot fly. So we cannot say that chicken fall under the category of the bird. If we talk about the penguin, penguin has feathers, is also an animal, but it cannot fly because it can swim. So what to do with these two linguistic expressions, because they are not falling into the category of the bird. They are not fulfilling this sufficient necessary definition categories, and so there are fuzzy boundaries. So this theory is not acceptable because we need a proper criteria in which we must be able to understand about those words which are not falling in the particular criteria. So in response to this theory, the causal theory came there, and I have already explained to you about the causal theory. Basically, this is the initial naming event in which the names are assigned by the people, and then later on they do use those particular names to refer the particular object. For instance, if a scientist discovered the gold, so he gave the name gold to that particular matter, right? So later on, that particular matter will be called the name with the name of the gold, the symbol which has been assigned to the particular matter. But the question arises that what to do about the matter, other metals which look similar to basically the gold. So we can also call them gold. So the question arises that how can we differentiate between the other metals and the gold, which basically look like gold. So again, this theory is also rejected, and need arises for another theory, which is basically the prototype theory of concept. So this theory is about the nature and structure of concepts, an attempt to remedy the shortcomings of the classical definition theory of concepts. So it views a concept as being centered around a representation of an ideal example or prototype. So basically, according to this particular theory, all the characteristics which are defined for the particular person, for the particular object, so all the objects which fulfill that particular criteria will be called the prototypical central member, and rest of the all which will fulfill some categories and some characteristics of that particular criteria will fall in that particular category, but for then the central member. Whether something belongs to a category, and if so, how central it is, are determined by its degree of resemblance to the prototype. Because they do define the prototype, and it depends on the resemblance with to the prototype, that whether some belongs to a particular category or how central it is. It is determined by the degree of resemblance to the prototype. So the prototype is represented by a set of features which is reminiscent of those found in the classical theory. For example, the concept bird might be represented by this summary representation of anything which has feathers, has wings, flies, has two legs, lays eggs, builds a nest, sings, and so on. So all the other animals, birds, animals which are fulfilling all these and some of these particular characteristics will fall into the category of bird. But the central figure will be all those who are fulfilling all these categories, who has particularly all these characteristics. For example, sparrow. Sparrow has feathers, has wings, sparrow can fly. And sparrow has two legs, sparrow lays eggs, sparrow builds a nest, and can sing. Right? So we can say that sparrow is the central, or canary is the central of the bird, because it is fulfilling all the prototype. It is basically the prototype central member, and rest of the chicken or penguin who are following in this category, but as the penguin cannot fly, so it will also fall under the category of all those animals who can swim. So on the basis of the summary of representation or characteristics, it will be decided whether it is fully falling in this category or not. So a summary representation that doesn't contain details of individual examples. So the degree of resemblance of an item to the prototype is measured by the number of feathers, basically the features it shares with the prototype. So some prototype theories interpret degree of resemblance to prototype as degree of membership in the category. On this interpretation, an ostrich would not be a full member of the category bird because it cannot fly. So let me explain the prototype theory with another example. So basically, if we talk about the bird, so basically the object, the major object which will fulfill all the definition which I have explained. So all the characteristics which I already told you, that the representation, anything which has feathers, wings, flies, has two legs, lays eggs, builds a nest, and sings songs, will be considered the major central members which has maximum closeness to the features of the bird. This is also called the prototypical member or the typical member. The rest of the all which has a little bit resemblance will fall in the category of this will be the members, but on the basis of their closeness, the division will be done on the basis of their closeness, that how much features they are fulfilling. For example, if we're talking about the canary, so if we talk about the sparrow, it has much more resemblance on the basis of the features, right? If we talk about the penguin, it is also fulfilling some of the features, but not falling fully with the canary, and has no fulfilling all the features of the canary. So if we talk about the bat, similarly again, it has resemblance but not full resemblance. So the distance between the lines is basically telling you that how much the difference is there. So, and how much they are falling in the category. So according to the prototype theory, there is basically a set criteria for the membership, and all the objects which are fulfilling some of the particular features or characteristics, they are falling in the category, in the membership of the particular object, the particular linguistic expression. So this is all about prototype theory. So let me summarize this theory in a way, these all definitions and examples of the prototype theory. A prototype is basically a cognitive reference point, the proto-image of all representatives of the meaning of a word or of a category. Thus, a robin or a sparrow can be regarded as a prototype or a good example of the category of bird, whereas a penguin or an ostrich is rather a bad example of this category. So it's all about the conceptual theories. In this class, we have discussed the 4 conceptual theories, which are basically the semantic theories of meaning. So here I'll wind up the lecture. I hope all the points are pretty clear to all of you. In case of any confusion, you can discuss with me in the class and even in the WhatsApp group. So take care. Allah Hafiz.